to Precepts, Perfections, and the Eightfold Path, pointers for practice in the modern world. Many of you, before I begin, actually, there are a few people I would like to thank. I would like to thank Brother Au and Brother Vincent for this opportunity and asking me to come and talk here. And most of all, I think I should thank my maid, Lina, who is at home holding the fort with my two kids while my husband is at work and I am here. So let's talk a little bit about these things. Before I begin, I probably also want to tell you why I chose this topic. There are many reasons. The first is that when I was researching about, when my son was asking me about religion in Singapore, and you will see from this talk that a lot of this talk is actually about my son. And he was saying to me, "Mummy, are there many Buddhists in Singapore? Because I have no friends who are Buddhist." And so I went and looked it up, and lo and behold, Buddhists are the majority, 34%. I was quite shocked because in my workplace, among my work colleagues, 50% are Christian, 10% profess to be Buddhist, and 40% are free thinkers. Okay, that 10% includes me. Yeah? Okay, so I was quite surprised. And because there are a large number of free thinkers amongst my colleagues, I often get asked these kinds of questions. Why are you a Buddhist? Is karma like a point system or what? Isn't it always very restricting? You have to be very good all the time. Have to control yourself, be good. Isn't it very restricting? And actually, more recently, someone far more important to me was asking questions. My son. And he's saying things like, if I don't believe in all this stuff about rebirth and the realms, because he learns that in Sunday school, can I still be a Buddhist? And then he says things like, you know, the story of the birth of Siddhartha and taking 7 steps on the lotus. And he said, that's a load of rot, isn't it? And then he says, I said, I just want you to be a good Buddhist. And he says, so what is a good Buddhist? And then this morning before I came, he said, Buddha was a rebel, right? He didn't listen to his father, King Shuddhadana. Can I be a rebel too? Okay, so that actually set me thinking. And I just wondered, you know, how can we share our experience of walking the path without alienating those who are new to it? And you know, we say that we are Buddhists, but my son says he's a Buddhist. He has got no friends in school who are Buddhist. I say I'm a Buddhist. If we are the majority, where are all that 34%? Huh? And how can I keep the teaching simple and manageable for a kid that is young? And can I take a second look at the most basic of the Buddhist practice to deepen my own interpretation of what I had always taken for granted, what all of us take for granted? So, what's the Buddha's teaching? If somebody asks you, can you just summarize for me, what is the Buddha's teaching? A work colleague actually asked me this. And I said, oh, very simple. To avoid evil, to do good, and to purify the mind. This is the teaching of all the Buddhas. Well, that's well and good, isn't it? But you tell that to a 10-year-old. What's avoid evil? What's do good? And what do you mean by purifying the mind? So, evil. This picture here, this painting here is from Edvard Munch. It's called The Scream. You look at the picture and the expression on that person's face. He's suffering. It's truly, to me, this picture embodies suffering. And my definition to him was that any action, speech, or thought that is driven by greed, hatred, or delusion can be construed as being evil in lesser or greater extents. So the 3 poisons, lobha, dosa, and moha, lead to suffering. But how do you make this tangible to a 10-year-old? So I asked him to imagine that he was a passenger on a bus on the long road of life, okay? And this is your driver who's driving your bus, Mr. Loba Dosa Moha, okay? And this is what he says. Get out of my way, lah, you teet, teet, teet. Stupid, don't even know how to drive. I run you down only, then you know, okay? Right. So, what do you think your chances are of arriving safely at your destination with a driver like this? Son was not very impressed with Mr. Loba Dosa Moha. He thought that he'd rather not get on the bus. Okay, so now you have a very super safe bus driver who has 8 competencies, and he has already got a certificate to prove that he got these 8 competencies. They are right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Voila! So, who will you choose as your driver? So, which brings me to the second bit, the avoid evil, do good. And the doing good is actually encompassed by none other than the Noble Eightfold Path that we know so well. And in actual fact, that verse in the Dhammapada, it's great because it is the Buddha's blueprint for building the pyramid of our progress on the path. See? Avoid evil, do good, purify the mind. So, my son likes to play with Lego, as do most boys of his age. And when you build pyramids, you have to have a strong foundation. Okay? Even if you were to build a structure like the Borobudur, you can see that the base is very wide and it's very strong. Otherwise, you can't build up high. So, in fact, the 5 precepts are our stable base. It is the stable base for the lay person. Which is all well and good, but then you tell him this. He says, I undertake the precept to abstain from killing, abstain from stealing, abstain from sexual misconduct, abstain from lying, abstain from intoxicants. And this was what he said to me. It's just like you, lah, Mummy. Cannot. This cannot. That cannot. Everything cannot. Yeah? Very off-putting. So I said, well, actually, if you look at it again, this abstain from is what? It's only abstaining from the things which are the evil that are rooted in your 3 poisons. Your greed, your hatred, and your ignorance. But then how do we, as Buddhists, we say, okay, fine, I don't do any of these 3, or any of these 5 things. Okay, I'm great, aren't I? Super. So actually, if you then go back to that first verse, avoid evil, do good, and purify the mind, and apply that to your 5 precepts, actually most of us just stop at the base, just the avoid evil part. Okay? And we don't actually, many of us don't think about or don't consider the things that will allow us to do good and to purify the mind and what it means. So mindfulness. So we come and we practice mindfulness meditation. Why? Because it gives us the mental focus to allow us to differentiate the positive and negative emotions that actually arise in any particular situation. It gives us time to step back and consider the road that we're going to take instead of just blundering ahead like Mr. Loba Dosa Moha, yeah, in a particular situation. And in actual fact, it is the most powerful and indispensable tool, even in the practice of something as basic as the 5 precepts. So let's think a little bit about how we're going to rethink the precepts. Everybody knows this. My son knows this. My 5-year-old daughter knows this. But what does it actually mean? I undertake the precept to abstain from killing. So this is what they recite in Sunday school. I undertake the precept to abstain from killing. I will care for the welfare and happiness of all beings. Yes. And so what does it mean? So what it means is to have a right view and right intention towards all beings. You practice loving kindness and compassion towards our fellow human beings. It's not just about taking life. It's much more than that. It's wishing them well. And wishing no harm coming to them. Mr. Lopa Dosa Moha may not have killed anyone by his driving, but he's cursing everybody. And pretty soon he might end up crashing into someone and truly killing them. Yeah? And to practice loving kindness and compassion towards all beings. And my kids have been told, yes, even flies, ants, and mosquitoes count. Okay? But much more than that, we have to also have right action, the doing good. What does that mean? I always tell my 2 children that you must also, I may abstain from killing, but I also don't want to force others to kill or be killed or be hurt because I was unmindful. This means keeping your home and your environment clean. This means throwing rubbish in the proper place and wiping up spills so that ants don't come, flies don't come, cockroaches don't come. It also means responsibly disposing of sharp things like glass, toxic items like batteries. You throw glass into or sharp things into the waste bin. The guy comes and the uncle who comes and collect rubbish come and collect, and then he cuts his hand. Then after it gets infected, he dies. You know, so that is an unmindful action on your part that has indirectly led it to somebody else's suffering and possibly even loss of life. Toxic items like batteries. Do you know that there are actually battery collection things dotted around? If you go to the NEA website, they have special bins to collect batteries. Very often change battery, never mind, bong, throw in the dustbin. So where does that go? It's incinerated. And then it goes back to the ground. All the toxic stuff goes back into the ground. Yeah. So we don't think about these things. But we are indirectly contributing towards harm to other beings if we do this. Being environmentally responsible. Not wasting resources. Even if somebody else is paying the bill. Never mind lah, just leave the door open. After all, I'm not paying the bill for the aircon. Even if you're not paying the bill, the cost ultimately is to Mother Earth. Turn off the light. Turn off the fan. Turn off the electricity. Don't leave things on standby. Don't consume unnecessarily. Do you really need that new shirt? Packaging. We often get lazy, so we just go for everything. Oh, never mind, I'll just take an extra plastic bag. And disposables. We have to think about these things. We are not, the earth is not a place with infinite resource. And if we truly profess to care for all beings, we then have to really look at our own lives and our own practice and examine whether we are truly being environmentally responsible. It's not just for the tree huggers. And then recycling, making the effort to separate your rubbish, your trash at home. Finding new uses for old things. And finally, also, consider adopting a plant-based diet. Most of you that read the Straits Times 2 days ago would have seen this. An article that shows that meat consumption causes as much harm to the environment for greenhouse gases as all the exhaust emissions for all the world's vehicles, cars, ships and aeroplanes added together. Okay? So it is something worth thinking about. So we move on now. Not taking that which is not given, which is the second precept. So the children say these things. I undertake the precept to abstain from stealing. I will be generous, open-handed, and take delight in sharing. I want to just highlight some issues about modern day stealing, as it were. Right view and right intention is important. And the modern examples of taking the not given would be, or abstaining from taking not given, would be respect for other people's personal property and space. Plagiarism, okay, copying. Copying without an acknowledgement. Oh, I have this essay to write, never mind, I just lift it off, cut, paste, cut, paste, cut, paste. Okay? So that is taking that which is not given. Illegal download of software, music, and books. Ask yourselves, is this taking the not given? What about the author, the musician that has to make his livelihood out of selling the music? Okay? It is time that for the modern day, the 5 precepts, that we look beyond the traditional. And of course, being generous, open-handed, and take delight in sharing. Most of us know what that means. It means helping, sharing of material goods, money, food, and clothing. Donation drives and things like that. But there are other people who are more creative. Now, I know Brother Eddie said that I come from Malaysia. So this guy here is one of my heroes, the guy at the corner there. His name is Syed Azmi. He is a Muslim. And he does a lot of work for homeless people in Malaysia. And he is a proponent of random acts of kindness. So he will go to a poor town and he will just pay some coffee shop owner and buy up all the stuff there and leave it for whoever he wants to take the food and to pass it on. Okay, so this is his form of being generous, open-handed, and sharing without expecting anything in return. Gifts don't need to be money. Gifts can be time, but since time is money, it's the same. So this is an example of a Tzu Chi free clinic, a mission trip to the Philippines. You don't even have to go all that far. A friend who wants some of your time just to listen to their problems, that is being generous. I'm giving you my time, a listening ear. People work hard, for most of us, if we have a maid and we're an employer, or if you own a business, some time off for your employees. Maybe the best gift, they may not want money in compensation. They might just want some time. And of course, volunteerism, giving of your own time to helping other people. Other gifts. The gift of knowledge. Kiasu society. Very often, got something good, I don't want to share. I know this, never mind. Yeah. Useful information and knowledge can be made as a gift to others. Teaching other people, teaching your friends, family members, just random people. That is a gift, and that is being generous, open-handed, and sharing. Okay. Then we come to the third precept. And the third precept can be interpreted as sexual responsibility. And there is a very, very super wonderful website of teachings by Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh. And his third precept is not just, I abstain from sexual misconduct. This is what he says. aware of the suffering caused by sexual misconduct, I undertake to cultivate responsibility and learn ways to protect the safety and integrity of individuals, couples, families, and society. I am determined not to engage in sexual relations without love and a long-term commitment. To preserve the happiness and welfare of myself and others, I am determined to respect my commitments and the commitments of others. I will do everything in my power to protect children from sexual abuse and to prevent couples and families from being broken by sexual misconduct. I thought this was wonderful. And what was even more wonderful was what he said after that. So he brought home the fact that there has to be respect and responsibility in our actions, including with commercial sex workers. And then that, you know, with all the modern multimedia, there are various apps like Snapchat, where you can have virtual affairs, virtual infidelity. It deletes itself after a time. No one could find out so easily. But, you know, you have to really consider respect and responsibility towards your partner and towards the other person. And the next line, the most powerful line in this article was this: if you don't see the other person as a human being with a capacity for becoming a Buddha, then you will risk transgressing this precept. If you see your partner or another person as a human being who will be a Buddha one day, you won't be able to bring yourself to transgress this precept. There is another very, very good article here that I would urge you to go and have a look at. And it talks about using the Noble Eightfold Path to look into ourselves and to examine our own sexuality. And it doesn't define misconduct in terms of any specific sexual behavior, which was very, very good, but it emphasizes using the Noble Eightfold Path to think about your own behavior and considering the impact that your own behavior can have on other people. Okay, so the fourth precept, abstaining from lying, is actually all about right speech. And this is a very, very lovely painting from one of my favorite American illustrators called Norman Rockwell. And the title is The Gossips. Have a look. It starts on the top left-hand corner, and then it goes all the way down to the bottom right. Okay, see that lady with the hat, and how she passes things on, okay, and what happens to her in the end, okay. I thought this depicted very, very beautifully what we ought not to be doing. So for this particular fourth precept, my son came and said to me, yes, I know what it's all about. My class teacher taught me that before I speak, I have to think. I have to think whether it's true, it's helpful, whether it's inspiring, it's necessary, and it's kind. And I thought, wow, that's really nice. And then when I went to look up all the characteristics of right speech, and lo and behold, it was all there. I thought nothing could encapsulate it better than this. But you know, in the modern day again, speech is not just what comes out from our mouth. This is also speech, isn't it? Social media is also a form of speech. And so, when we think about right speech, we must also be mindful on social media platforms. And you know, we are all relatively anonymous on the internet. Nobody can see your face, nobody can see your expression. So, we just post whatever we want to write. We just write, okay? We want to curse somebody, we just curse. So this makes people bold enough to say online what they may not say in person. So before you post anything, again, I would urge you to use that think. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Before you post. if it's all that, then press post. Okay, so the last precept, abstaining from intoxicating drinks and drugs. In the Buddha's time, there was only drinks and drugs, yeah, not a lot else, okay? But our times now are different. It's about keeping your mind clear. And why clarity of mind? Because if your mind is not clear, you can easily break the other 4 precepts, very easily. Okay? And you need it to maintain mindfulness so that you can mind the other 4 precepts. This precept, together with the 3rd precept, is actually the most socially destabilizing in the modern day. So everybody says, yeah, okay, I know, I get drunk. That's obvious. Okay, I take drugs. Okay, I don't know where I am. I don't know what I'm doing. That's obvious. What isn't so obvious? What's not so straightforward are the fact that many of us are, have this body, and this body is subject to decay. And we, many of them, myself included, are on prescription medicines. And sometimes my medicines alter my mood and my behavior. Many of you would probably be on similar medicines. Hormonal alterations for women. There are times of the month when women come and say, don't come near me, don't ask any questions unless you want your head to be bitten off, okay? Premenstrual tantrums. Be that as it may, if you are well grounded in mindfulness practice, the impact of this will be minimized, but it's there. Okay, so we have to recognize it. The other thing I wanted to talk to you all about is about addiction. Behavioral addiction versus substance addiction. Many people, everybody I think knows what substance addiction is. Yeah, it's if you are a heroin addict or a cocaine addict, if you're found to be trafficking, you get thrown into jail. You have rehabilitation and things like that. Everybody knows about that. But what's behavioral addiction? In the modern world, alcohol and drugs are not the only things that we can get addicted to, which impairs our judgment. There is actually an entity called potentially problematic mobile phone usage. And it is a psychiatric condition, believe it or not. Gambling. Did you see this? This was in 2010. They were so hooked on gaming and they looked after this virtual baby online that their own child starved to death. So isn't that an example of the 5th precept being so addictive that you end up causing harm to another? I just wanted to show you this. This is a bit of medicine, psychology actually. It talks about behavioral addiction. How can you tell that you are becoming addicted to a particular thing, be it video game playing or surfing the net on your phone or WhatsApping someone constantly or Facebooking? Well, your life becomes dominated by that activity and you get a buzz or a high. Oh, so many people like my picture. Tolerance. You have to do it more and more and more to get that same buzz. And withdrawal. My mobile phone's spoiled. Okay? Do you know that there is actually a condition called nomophobia? It's called no mobile phone phobia. Okay? So it's an anxiety disorder that that is triggered by the loss or lack of mobile phone. So cessation of activity leads to occurrence of unpleasant emotions or physical effect. And then the activity leads to conflict with others or self-conflict. And then if you resume with the same vigor, and then you feel very much better, okay? And then if you spend all your time doing it and not studying or working, then obviously you might, it might affect your job, educational or career opportunities. And there is actually a basis for this. It is the same basis as the basis for drug addiction. So there is a substance in our brain called dopamine. And dopamine is a drug that gives us pleasure. Okay, so it is when you do something that makes you feel good, you get a release, and it is supposed to reinforce you into doing that particular action again. So what happens with an addictive behavior is that you get a buzz and then you feel good. And then what happens is that in the addicted brain, this pathway has hijacked your brain, and your prefrontal cortex, which is the front bit that is involved in rational decision making, is inhibited. It's suppressed. So, you know, your decision-making capacity is impaired, and you would choose that rewarding behavior even in the face of long-term negative consequences, which is probably what happened to that South Korean couple. And so after a while, if you keep on having this dopamine high, the cells don't respond so well to it anymore. So you need higher and higher and higher levels. So this is what it means when we say that a person has become tolerant to it. So the addict will do anything they can to get a fix. Okay? So, I would urge us all to be mindful of our own behaviors and mindful have mindfulness practice so that we can recognize craving. So this dopamine pathway is what is the biological basis for craving, okay? And the hijacked brain. And be aware that our own addictive behaviors may be sending out the wrong message to the younger generation. That it's okay to be texting when we're all sitting around the dinner table instead of talking to each other. I tell you not to, but I'm surfing the net on my phone at dinner time. And to channel our energies into a more positive direction to get that same high. So, I was supposed to talk on perfections, the paramitas. In the Pali Canon, there are 10. In Theravada Buddhism, there are 10. In Mahayana, there are 6. But these are the perfections, the perfections of virtues that the Bodhisattva is supposed to perfect before attaining Buddhahood. So you can see that under that do good and purify the mind bit, if you apply that to the 5 precepts, they reflect the paramitas. And you just have to remember that even great bodhisattvas have had to build their pyramids from a stable base. So, in conclusion, one of my colleagues said, "Ayo, so restrictive, your religion. This cannot, that cannot, everything also cannot. Abstain from this, abstain from that. Is there anything that you can do?" So I said to him, "Well, actually, you know what? I play music. This is my favorite song, Chopin's Nocturne No. 1. Buddha is like my piano teacher, okay? The Dharma, which is there already, it's all around us, is like this music score. It was already written. So the Buddha, in teaching me the Dharma, was teaching me how to play an instrument. The Dharma that he has, he already said, these are the things that you have to do. This note has to be played like this, that note has to be played like that, and if I practice, when I play the music, and if I practice it well, the sound that I make will give me as much joy as the best music in the world, okay? And it gives me the same joy and freedom that the Noble Eightfold Path will give. So it's another way of thinking of the Buddha Dharma. I was hoping to share this song with you. This song I learned in secondary school, which just tells you how old I am. And it is a marvelous song that is very old-fashioned, nothing like the Buddhist songs of modern times, but it has a very, very, very good meaning behind it. Unfortunately, the PowerPoint doesn't play, so we are going to try and play it from YouTube. Bear with me. Why didn't it do that? Yeah, okay. Let's see if we can do this properly. How do I increase the... Wait. How do I increase the sound on this? The volume on this? Control plus.
So you can put the mic nearby the...
Where's the speaker?
That's a good question.
Never mind. We'll just put it in this vicinity. So please feel free to sing along.
Can we all say sadhu 3 times? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So it's time for the question and answers now. So anyone of us have a questions, may raise your hand and we'll send the mic to you. Yes.
Thanks, sister. Hello? Thanks, sister, for sharing. Can you all hear me? Hello? Oh, great. Yeah. your sharing about the fifth precept actually made me think about workaholics, because I like how you bring in the modern dimension, you know, that is happening today, what we observe. And then I feel that, oh, you know, there are people at a workplace or friends, and they kind of like, they tell you that, oh, they get the high when they go for the next target, and they can work round the clock at the expense of blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so would you also consider it like that loss of mindfulness, and it becomes a behavioral habit until things break down?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know. This is on, but I don't know why it's not. Read the article, it's very interesting.
Thank you, Doctor, for the interesting talk, bringing Buddhism into daily life. Actually, I have two questions, if I may. The first question is that you show the, hello?
Yes, yes.
You show that what is Buddhism by saying that avoid evil, do good, purify the mind. This is the teachings of all Buddha.
Yeah.
The way I look at it, avoid evil, do good, purify the mind, this is the teaching of all religion. That's what I can see it. All religion teaches this, not only the Buddha, you know. So if in any religion we practice this, just like your example of the Muslim friend in Malaysia,
Yeah.
then we can
Agreed.
also be
Totally
enlightened, right? So we need not be just Buddhism doing this, right?
Absolutely, you're
Right.
absolutely
So
right.
can you comment a bit more on this?
So, you know, the Dharma is everywhere. You cannot say, oh, the Dharma belongs only to Buddhists, you know. If you read the Bible, you'll find Dharma inside also. Yeah, you'll find Dharma everywhere. You know, we don't have to get that quote just comes from the Dhammapada, but it's not exclusive to. It's not. Oh, we are Buddhists. That's our property. Hey, this is our phrase. You all don't touch. It's not like that at all. Yeah, the Dhamma is everywhere. Yeah, and you know, so this is why I said I brought my son into this, because he is having great troubles accepting certain aspects of Buddhism. But I'm fine with that, because at the end of the day, what I want him to be is a good person. Yeah, and that good person, whether you call themselves a Christian, a Muslim, Hindu, free thinker, whatever, that's fine. It's fine. You know, we are all walking our own road. It might take you a little bit longer to get to your destination, but that's fine. And I try and use phrases from the Buddha's teaching when I teach my trainees, but I don't label it as being a Buddhist phrase. Oh, Buddha said this. I don't. I will say things like, oh, someone's upset you. My trainee came to me that day in tears because somebody had upset her, and that someone was being very unfair and bullying and horrible, and you know, and my advice to her was, you be like the lotus that rises above the water, the dirty water. And Buddha said, you know, just as a lotus rises above the dirty water, even so I rise above the dirty water of life. Therefore, Brahmin, I am Buddha. But I don't use that phrase on her. And you know, there are a lot of examples and parables and phrases that we can share with our friends and loved ones, even if they are not Buddhist.
Thank you. My second question is on addiction. Is there such thing as wholesome addiction? For example, I'm trying to be addicted to meditation. You know, and if I don't meditate, I feel very, very lousy. And some people are addicted to maybe doing good, like Mother Teresa. I think if she doesn't do something good to help, she'll feel very uneasy. So these are wholesome addiction. So do you have any comment on this wholesome addiction?
So usually
has
it's
all the
wholesome.
things of what you say about other addiction, but what are the...
So usually if it's wholesome and effort is required, that pathway is not triggered so easily. So if a great deal of effort is required, so if you are interested, there is a book called Thinking Fast and Slow by a guy named Daniel Kahneman. He's a psychologist, and he talks about our brain actually having two parts. There's system 1 and system 2. And system 1 is the one that just wants everything done easily, fast reward, quickly, let's get it done. System 2 is the one where we actually have to put in effort. So at the moment, for us, meditation is system 2. Have to sit down, focus, 3 breaths later, what am I thinking about? So until something like that becomes, we are not addicted to meditation because it hasn't become part of that system 1 yet. And it hasn't become part of the system 1 because we haven't done it enough. Yeah.
Do you have any more questions?
Morning, sister. Hello.
Good morning.
Yes, I learned a new word, which is the nomophobia. I thought that was very interesting. It's a totally new word, but I thought it could apply to my kids because they're teenagers.
Okay.
And recently, I took a picture of my teenage daughter sleeping. Her thumb was on the screen, holding her mobile. And I said, how can you sleep with your thumb just on the screen and holding your mobile? You must have been so engrossed in your phone and falling asleep. Then you look at the term addiction, right? Whether it affects people around you and your behavior and your day-to-day living. And it doesn't, because if you tell them to put down the phone, they do, and they know when to do their homework.
Okay.
So how then do you determine whether it's detrimental or whether it's still acceptable, or is it just personal expectations and limits?
You have to ask them to, I think, if they're teenagers, you probably have to ask them to determine for themselves whether they will probably resent being told. Perhaps ask them whether they consider this to be acceptable, and to point out several things which are rooted in fact. So what is rooted in fact is this. For most people who use the mobile phone at night, in a darkened room, they are at risk of burning their retina, burning their eyes and causing irreversible macular degeneration. Which means that, and macular degeneration, once you have it, no amount of specs in the world will help you already. Your cells are dead, burnt, okay? The second thing is, truly nobody knows what this sort of radiation is doing to our bodies. There have been 1 or 2 isolated reports that show that there are certain instances of certain types of particularly brain cancers, gliomas, that increase with constant mobile phone usage. So these are things to because if this thing is there and it's transmitting radio waves all the time and you think about it, you have to realize that we may not see the detrimental effect now because the iPhone is how old? 8 years, 9 years old, something like that. Yeah, it may affect the younger generation. And certainly to have some sort of off time is good for the brain because the brain needs to rest. If the brain doesn't rest, you will have and you don't get adequate rest, you will have increased amount of stress hormones in the body. When you have increased amount of stress hormones in the body, you're opening the gate to all kinds of nasty things. Yeah. So I would say to them that I attended this talk today and the doctor there said that you should consider some phone-free time, and this is why. What do you think?
Yeah, very interesting, very systematic the way you describe. I understand you teach your children.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So my question maybe, I'm referring to the way of thinking. Buddha teaching is very systematic with regard to knowing and understanding. But beside that, the teaching also in the Buddhism, or maybe also under religion, there is what we call a chanting. From your point of view, how the chanting works toward the mind?
So I come from a very interesting family. My mother is a devout Mahayana Buddhist. She goes to Fo Guang Shan Temple without fail 3 times a week and chants for hours. Okay. My father is a nominal Buddhist, so he used to read the Young Buddhist, the Buddhist Digest from YBAM when many years long gone. And he would sit and read it, and he would never go to the temple. I discovered Buddhism when I was about 14 years old. And I started off with the Theravada tradition. Then after that, I followed my mom to the Mahayana temple, and I've come back to the Theravada way of practice. Hello? Chanting is an object of meditation. When the Mahayana Buddhists chant Namo观世音菩萨, they're not just saying Namo观世音菩萨. They are visualizing. You are using the visualization and the phrase as an object of meditation in the way that we do. And in that way, it calms them down and it calms down their mind. So chanting is really, really important, and chanting is important to help develop faith and fellowship, to my very simple way of thinking. And you know, when you are chanting and you are keeping your mind focused on Amitabha Buddha or Guan Shi Yin Pusa or whichever other Buddha that you might be visualizing, when you are chanting, you are not doing anything bad in body, in speech, or in your mind. So for that particular moment, you are actually doing that, not doing any evil, doing good and purifying your mind by focusing.
And just one more step, a little bit deeper. Looking from the, just now you explained, we are using the visualization or the mind. Yeah, that is, you answer my question. If I'm looking from the other side of science, I'm not talking about from medicine, maybe from the technique, from science. Yeah? You think the chanting have certain vibration toward surrounding?
Maybe. I'm not sure. But all I know is that when I do follow my mom for the chanting sessions, it's incredibly calm and it's incredibly lovely. And I'm incredibly happy when I'm there. I think that's what matters. Yeah. There is a, you know, there is a story of, there's a story that Mahayana Buddhists like to tell about Om Mani Padme Hum. I'm sure you guys know maybe you know the story about how this old lady read the Hong word wrongly and thought it was new. And so she kept chanting Om Mani Padme New, Om Mani Padme New. And she got very, very upset when she found out that it was wrong. But in actual fact, it didn't matter because during that period of time, she was calm, at peace, focused, with joy in her heart. Yeah? That's what's important.
Could have 1 or 2 more questions.
Doctor, you were saying that those people who have addiction, there is something wrong with their mind. Where can they seek help? Because I have a relative who is addicted to gambling. It affects her decision.
In Singapore, I believe that they would need to, if it is a real problem, you see the problem with addicts is that they have to realize that they have a problem before we cannot force them to seek help. Do you know what I mean? Because they are not considered to be mentally incapable of making a decision. Though, in the obvious definition of the most basic definition of the word, even though we know that their decision making is impaired. So for medical things, if you want them to go and seek help from a psychologist or a psychiatrist, they have to be willing to go themselves first. That is the problem for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm glad that she has finally taken the step to go to a Christian center to seek help.
Yeah.
But is there any Buddhist organizations that's offering this type of assistance?
I really am not sure. There you are.
Anyone last questions? You have one more?
Okay, what I want to is a request, not so much a question. When you do find an easy path towards Buddhism, they're trying to teach your kid now, and you find it some difficulty trying to.
I actually don't find it easy at all.
Yeah.
I find it really difficult.
Correct. So I'm also telling you that me trying to follow the path is also very, very difficult.
Yes, I understand.
So if you have come across
I haven't found an easy way.
do let
at
us
all.
know.
I find that I shouldn't say that every bit is a struggle. It's actually something to be very thankful for, because actually the biggest teacher is the children, because they have no preconceptions whatsoever, and they ask it to you straight. And they are very frank about what they believe and what they find totally and utterly unbelievable.
Thank you, Dr. Koh, once again for
Thank you.
the
Thanks for
talk.
helping. Thanks
Can
for
we all
listening.
say sadhu one more time again? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So now we have some announcements.